The River Severn is 220 miles long, rising in the mountains of mid-Wales. The River Severn was a very busy river. In 1662 it was claimed that 100,000 tons of coal a year were shipped to towns along the river. Other major bulk trades included salt, timber, bricks, slates, lead and pig iron. In the early 1700s, the Severn enabled the growth of the coal fields of Colebrook Dale and later transported Shropshire coal to fuel the salt works in Droitwich and manufacturers in the West Midlands. Trows in their hundreds carried cargo between Bristol and Wales. The trow was a wooden sailing ship. They were only used on the Severn due to the tide leaving the river very shallow. They could be fitted with a wooden keel to allow them to sail on the open sea. This picture shows a trow coming through Tewkesbury locks loaded with salt for France. The canals were thought of as the motorways of the time. They followed the contours and, where necessary, they went up or under using locks and tunnels. The canals and the tunnels were built by hand by groups of men called navvies or navigators to give them their proper name. James Brindley was a pioneer canal builder who constructed the Bridgewater Canal from Worsley to Manchester, which is recognised as the first English canal of major economic importance. An Act of Parliament was passed to allow James Brindley to link Birmingham to the Severn. In 1760, the canal terminus was built on meadowland to the southwest of the hamlet of Lower Mitton. The terminus was first called Stourmouth, but by 1771 the final name of Stourport was settled on. Stourport was chosen rather than Bewdley because the residents of Bewdley didn't want Brindley's stinking ditch running through their town. The canal was 29 miles long, 6 foot deep and 42 foot wide. It was finally opened for traffic in 1815. It was a channel for supplying Worcester and the borders of the Severn down to Tewkesbury and Gloucester with coal, and in return conveyed the hops and cider of that part of the country northward. Through the years, the condition of the Severn had become worse, as no improvements had been carried out since 1793. Nothing further was done until 1836, when the newly formed Severn Navigation Company ordered Thomas Rhodes to make a fresh survey of the river below Stourport with a view to large-scale improvements. Rhodes, in his reports, advised the construction of weirs and locks and hoped that through securing a minimum depth of 12 feet between Gloucester and Worcester and of 6 feet 6 inches from Worcester to Stourport, Worcester would become a seaport for ships of 200 to 300 tons and Stourport accessible by trows and barges from 17 to 100 tons. In 1840, the question of the Severn navigation scheme was brought up again. This was to provide a canal at Gloucester to avoid the shoals in the estuary of the Severn, which held up ships at low tide. Following proposals, protracted arguments and negotiations, in 1842 an act was passed to create a body of commissioners representing towns and business interests in order to improve the river for navigation. William Cubitt, who had been appointed engineer, recommended 4 locks and weirs between Worcester and Starport, with dredging below Worcester. He thought that the depth of 6 feet should be achieved. The locks were completed in 1845, but dredging proved difficult because of low water and hard marl shoals. A further lock just below Tewkesbury was added in 1858. For seamen, the river estuary started at King's Road, the anchorage at which vessels awaited the tide before either continuing up the Severn or up the Avon to Bristol. Vessels going up the river took a pilot for the first 50-mile stretch to Gloucester, which was very dangerous. Special care and local knowledge was necessary owing to the meandering of the river, the rocks and sands exposed at low tides, the twisting and variability of the channel, and the inadequate depth of water in the upper part. The improvement of the Severn was finally extended down to Gloucester with the approval of the citizens, and a lock and weir as originally projected placed there without endangering the health of the city by stagnating the water or destroying the salmon fishery or drowning the lands beside the stream. The Tharsis Sulphur and Copper Company at Cardiff treated ore shipped in from Spain and produced the sulphur that was loaded onto the Atalanta for delivery to the Midlands. Using the Severn navigation, Atalanta could avoid the sandbanks and sharp bends of the Severn that would have stopped them in the past. These aerial views from Google Earth illustrate the shoals and the curves at which the big boats would have got stuck. She lay overnight at the lower load where there just happened to be a handy pub. She turned into the Severn at 11 a.m. on Saturday the 21st, where she lay until 1 p.m. A fresh start is made at 6:15 a.m. on Sunday the 22nd. She arrived at Worcester at 10:30 a.m. on Sunday and moored up just short of the bridge in midstream, where the cargo was unloaded onto narrowboats to be taken on up the canal to the Midlands.